Okay, Sarah, go ahead. Right. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. I hope you are doing well and enjoying the summer, the last few days of summer. It's nice and not so hot, not so cold. So we have really good weather this week. I'm happy to have the show again today after 3 weeks, and I'm honored and pleased to introduce our today artist, Leah Tomaino. Leah, welcome to our conversation.
Oh, hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for being with us today. So, okay, let's start by telling us who you are, what you're doing, about your background, and how you became an artist.
Well, first of all, I'm a daughter, a mother, a wife, a sister, a cousin, and I'm a teacher. I'm an artist. I became an artist somehow. I remember one of my first memories was drawing a picture of my mother. And I was always told I was good at it. And she took me for my first oil painting class at the age of 5.
Oh my gosh, okay. So then, since then, you painting and you're doing art.
Yes.
All right, what type of art you doing?
For the past 20 years, I have only been doing collage. Even before that, but for the past 20 years, I've been working with brown, recycled brown paper bags. This is a picture of an earlier work in the early 90s. It's a portrait of my son. And I used to work with photographs and paint and collage. And since then, I've been working with, and tissue paper. But since then, I've been only working with brown bags.
All right. So that's why you have actually you have a series in your website. It said archive. Like, okay, let me just archive. So this is probably one of the early series.
Yes.
Yeah, so which is you use photo and different thing to create your artwork, right?
Yes.
All right. All right. So, sorry. One of the interesting work of you, of course, is your brown bag. But before we go and talk about that, there is an interview and a statement by Alpha Gallery, which is mentioned, and some review about your work. in that gallery interview said you use the symbols of life, cycle of life.
Yes.
Life after death, resurrection in your work. Would you please explain about those symbols and about those, like, symbols of life and death and cycle of life in your work? And explain how or what element of those you use in your work.
Well, I've always been influenced by nature. And because of that, I'm an avid gardener. And when you're a gardener, there are so many cycles that you go through with your flowers, that's how I do my work, by gardening and growing them, nurturing the flowers, and then photographing them, and then collaging them onto canvas. And I can just, the cycle of life and death. I was always afraid of death growing up. I remember walking with my grandfather, who was holding my hand, and I was 5 years old, and I had just found out that I was going to die someday. And I looked at him, and he was in his 70s, and I said, "Oh, you're gonna die soon." At the age of 5, and the whole family thought it was very funny that I said that to him. But I was serious about it, and throughout my life, I looked for many signs, or how life and death, is there life after death? And I find it in nature, and even in the winter time. I know that there are bulbs or roots underground that will spring in the fall. I mean, spring up in the spring, not the fall.
So you use nature as the cycle of life and death. And
yeah.
You also mentioned in a statement about soil and nature. So which is, you said, somehow this nature, soil, and nature, a spirit lead you through your work and through, your artwork, which is exactly true. I mean, everything has a spirit. I mean, nature, a spirit lead us, many artists actually, through their work, and life and cycle of life and death we can obviously see in the cycle in nature very clearly. So since we talk about inspiration and nature, would you explain who are or were your biggest influence in your work?
The biggest influences I would first have to say are Van Gogh and Monet.
Mm-hmm. Why?
I like the Impressionism. I like the texture. I also, of course, Georgia O'Keeffe, and then for photography, Diane Arbus.
A very good choice, of course. Okay, so let's go back to brown recycling brown bag, that's one of your major work, and that's what you're more famous for using recycled brown bag. Would you explain, how you do that, the process? How, are you tearing the paper by hand, or are you cutting them in different shape and then glue them? How the process work?
First, I acquire the bags, and then I cut them so that they're flat.
You cut them by hand, or that you have something?
I just cut them with a scissor, plain brown bag. And then I take acrylic paint, and I will paint the bag a certain color. So on the screen here, you see purples and pinks and browns. Here's a piece right here. So it's a brown bag on the back.
Yes.
I painted it this green. I'm using this green in the piece I'm working on currently. And then I decide, what I want to do, what composition I want to make. It's a similar green to the lilacs that are showing on the screen right now. And I rip it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and shape it. So all these are with brown bag, right? Everything, the flower here, the leaves, everything. You just color them differently. And the background is brown bag too, obviously.
Here it is, yes.
Yeah, here, okay. Some like the same thing with this one.
Yes.
We see. And most of your brown bag are nature, right? That means you use nature.
They all are.
All are.
They all are.
So this one, so amazing. Is this the background also brown bag?
This is also brown bag. This is the first piece that I decided that I wanted to fill the entire canvas with color. This is the first piece, and it's also the first piece that gave me arthritis.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
In my fingers, ripping tiny little.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, all this small detail, and you have to cut it by hands. Yeah. So how are you doing? All this there is a canvas underneath, right? You do it on canvas.
These are on canvas.
Okay, or on canvas, and then how you come with the plan? Do you have a plan, a sketch, or you just like you have everything different?
I generally work from my photographs.
Oh, okay.
This image is from a photograph from Smith College. They used to have 2 flower shows a year. My daughter attended and graduated from there. And I always enjoyed going to see the flower shows. They had a beautiful arboretum and greenhouses and had these beautiful flowers, mums and bulbs. And so I have many pieces from her college. And this is the first piece but there is no plan. I mean, it's the photograph. So I take many photographs.
And then use them as reference for your
yes,
create your artwork.
I don't sketch beforehand.
All right, but do you have the photo, like the
I have the photo, and I know where I'm gonna. What I do is I work on the background. So on this piece, I did the sky first.
All right.
So the light blue sky is behind everything, and then I work from back to front.
Because you glue them, right? You glue them on a.
Yes, I rip them up, and I glue them with matte medium.
Right. Wow, is this also brown bag, the background?
Brown bag.
Brown bag. Right. Very, very interesting, which I like to scan through all of them. She has actually more of this series in her website, if you are interested. Look at this, it's so real. Is this also, recycled brown bag? Like, my gosh. How long it takes to create an artwork like this. And this is quite large, 20 by 16.
This piece probably took around a year.
A year, my gosh, yeah. So, and then when the first layer, you have to let it to kind of dry a little bit, and then next. And then you cut all this ahead of time, or like you cut one by one as you want?
I rip it.
Okay, you rip it. Okay, so you don't, okay.
I do occasionally have to cut, and I think that's cheating, but sometimes I have to do it.
It's okay. We won't tell anyone. So. All right.
One person, a colleague that I work with, asked me, "Do you ever paint on? Use a brush and paint?" And I said, "No, that would be cheating."
So you don't use brush to painting?
No.
So how you paint them then?
I paint it first on the brown.
Okay, so you paint them anyway.
Well, I paint the bag.
Okay, you paint the whole bag, so you paint it somehow.
Yeah, and I paint in it, but he asked, "Do you paint on?"
Oh, okay, after you attach them.
Yeah.
All right. Someone actually who check your website, friend of mine, describe your work, and he said are very mathematical, which I think they are.
Yeah, there's a lot of math in art.
Yeah, there are in any art, and some more and some less. And as you see yours with all this detail, definitely there are more math involved in your work. And so they are so beautiful, which I can't really take my eyes off of any of this, brown bag series. But beside this, you have, I think this is the one you're working right now. And then I had a picture
Yeah,
And this is
I'm
ongoing,
currently
right?
working on this,
Yes. Okay. So this
and
is not.
it doesn't even look like this anymore. There's a lot more depth into the lattice.
All right. But this is also brown bag.
Yes.
Yeah. Goodness. Look at that. You have a series, you have some images with rejection layer. The
Oh,
story, and tell us, like, what's the story of this rejection layer?
well, back in the 90s, you used to have to send your slides, a sheet of slides, 20 slides to a gallery or a curator or whatever. And you try to solicit yourself and get a show or be accepted. And I found that I would always get these rejection letters saying, "Dear artist, I'm sorry, but you were not accepted. Good luck to you in your artistic activities in the future." And I had a filing cabinet with one file, very thick, of rejection letters. And I said, this is really should not be in my studios. I was saving them originally so that I knew who not to ever apply to again. And I was saving them. And in the end, I said, I don't want these in my studio space. This is negative vibes in the space that I work in. And I'm just going to, instead of using a brown bag background, I'm going to use these rejection letters, and I'm going to make something beautiful come out of them. And in the end, it was so funny. So this piece that you're showing here, Dear Artist, are all my rejection letters to galleries.
Okay.
Whether they were galleries in universities or galleries in New York City, they're gallery rejection letters. But then there was another one. I separated my files and I put rejection letters. Yes, this sincerely the curator. And this background is made out of all rejection letters from museums.
Okay.
And the funniest thing was that in the end, years later, I was asked to be in a show at the Morris Museum, and the Morris Museum chose this piece. It was a paper show they were having, and it was a beautiful show. Beautiful show. It was called Pulp Culture, was the title of the show, and I had a rejection letter in the background here from the Morris Museum, and then the piece was accepted into the show.
And what was their reaction to this work? And then did they know you rejected you once?
The director just lovingly said to me, "Things come full circle."
Yeah, exactly. So, and then the background is rejection layer, and the rest are brown bag again.
Yes.
Okay, which you paint them.
And then I was done with all my rejection letters. I got rid of them, and I don't have them in print anymore in my studio.
Now they are digital, right? And then you can just delete from your computer or devices.
Right.
So beside brown bag and rejection layer, which is we're gonna come back again to this, I'm going to go back to your website and I'm sorry, let me just, yeah, here. You have a series of drawing. Are these also you doing you currently do the drawing with, like, glue and tempera? I mean, I'm not really familiar with this medium. So
that is glue with ink in it to make the glue black.
Okay.
And then you draw with the glue, and you let the glue dry.
Okay.
And then that's with soft pastel.
Okay, so this is something you're doing, or now currently you're only doing brown bag?
Oh, yeah, that's, sometimes I draw when I'm on vacation. Otherwise, if I'm not on, it's hard to do my brown bags on vacation or if I go away.
Yes.
So.
You also have a beautiful section of painting, which is, look at this. It's like so real, so realistic in your website. Which is, I noticed you work with oil and some mixed media for your painting. And I think all your painting, as I scan through, are nature again. And that's the thing you do the most, right? Nature.
Yeah, well, yes.
And then the thing was really strange was Leah bears. Would you talk about this and tell us, like, what's the story and what is Leah bear doing in your website or as your artwork?
The Leah bras were a fun distraction for me. These were handbags. They're very small handbags. Mm-hmm. And I made them for my students at the County College of Morris. They were having a fashion show. And I made them for my models to carry. They also, there are pictures of my models also wearing bras.
Yes.
And it was just a fun distraction.
So are these bearers, the model wearing, also made by you or inspired by?
The students made the bras and everything, of course, the students made that. These were fashion students.
So they made based on what you design, which is, I think this, the last few are yours, right? These are your design with brown bag.
Yes, originally they were just brown bag bras. And then off of that, a group of students there's a fashion show every year at the college for our fashion students. And it sprang from that.
Very interesting. Are you saving them after that, or like, I
saved everything. If one of the handbags is sold, I will donate money to breast cancer research.
Oh, wow. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's a charitable thing.
All right. Very touching and very interesting, of course. All right. So as an artist in today's society, in particular, this last few months, it's like, does this pandemic impact your artwork? And if it did, how?
It does impact it. It gives me more time to work. And I'm very fortunate because I'm happy to be in my studio, whereas I know other people had a hard time not being able to go out or watching too much television. And I'm happy to be in my studio. So it's giving me more time.
Yeah, so it gives you more opportunity in somehow to spend with your art.
Yes.
Right. So do you have any, like, memory, like, or reaction of people to your artwork? What is the most memorable responses, if you can remember anything, like, to your artwork over the time?
I have a few memories. One time, someone told me that my artwork was very dark, and that was probably back in the 90s, before I was doing this.
Why dark?
I used to do a lot of work with political reference. But since I've gone on to the more spiritual nature, loving, recycling, I haven't heard anything except really nice feedback.
And become more colorful and cheerful. your work. And it's like, I didn't see your dark artwork, and these are beautiful and very cheerful, actually. So what do you think about since we have time, this is the last question I can ask, the position of women in art as a woman artist? In particular, a woman who lives in a small community. Of course, you are close to New York City. So what do you think about the position of women artists?
I think on a whole, it's not good. I'm very thankful to Nawa. Nawa really helps their members, and with shows or with publicity like this. Look at the percentage of women artists in any museum. It's much lower than men. And but as a person, I remember my first day in painting class as a freshman at the Cooper Union, and I had such a nice teacher, and he said, most of you are going to go home, never be famous, but you're going to help your community. And I do, and that's what happened. I teach for my township and I teach for my county college, and it's really lovely. The people the adults that I have are so inspiring, and it's so wonderful to be with them. And so I feel that, I love my work. I love my jobs. I do.
So what you teach, Leah,
For my township, I teach painting. Okay. And it's basically adults. And for the college that I work at, I teach 2D design, 3D design, and drawing.
All right, very interesting. All right, so we are almost at the end of our conversation. Do you have any final word for our guests today?
I just hope they all try to paint someday. It's a wonderful experience. It's a spiritual experience. It's meditative.
Yeah, and then get close to nature, right? And let the spirit of nature lead their way.
And if you have to stay home and stay safe, that's probably the best thing to be doing.
Yeah, currently, right? All right, so if you want to reach out to, sorry, let me just go back. If you want to reach out to Leah, this is her website, and she has amazing collection of work in her website, leahtomaino.com. And there is contact page, and you can email her. And if you have any questions, I'm sure she would be happy to answer. And if you want to, again, reach out to us, NAWA, email us at office@nawa.org. And don't forget to add in subject line, Art Conversation with Farrin. And then I guess I see you all in 2 weeks. And as you know, now we have only 2 shows every week, every Friday, every month. So see you again in 2 weeks with another talented artist. Thank you very much. And thank you, Leah, for letting us and sharing your beautiful story and beautiful artwork.
Oh, thank you, Farrin, and thank you, Nawa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good weekend.